A Redesigning of the 1964 Wilderness Act by Seth Tuttle, Logan Hyslop, Ian Kim, and Rebecca Behrens. What is wilderness and why is it important to preserve? A wilderness, in contrast with those areas where man and his own works dominate the landscape, is hereby recognized as an area where the earth and its community of life are untrammeled by man, where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. Wilderness areas are the following: conservation preserves, national forests, national parks, and wildlife refuge. A wilderness contains one or more of the following: areas of ecological value, geological value, scientific value, educational value, scenic value, and historical value. The justification for the original creation of the Wilderness Act of 1964 highlights the same reasons we need to preserve lands as wilderness areas today. Due to the rapidly expanding populations, the need for areas left in their natural condition continues today. It is also necessary that they be protected so the enduring wilderness areas remain pristine for years to come and future generations of Americans to enjoy. There are specifications, however. It is crucial that wilderness lands should be composed of federally owned areas designated by Congress. Though in our new Wilderness Act, an additional provision would be that states also would have new rights and be given a say in the wilderness areas that are or not established within their borders. Additionally, the preservation of ecosystems and wilderness lands is crucial to maintaining a pristine environment, and therefore will be taken into account in the new act as new proponents are added to reduce human traces in the wilderness areas. One of the greatest changes to the Wilderness Act would be the creation of a new central agency, the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management. The agency would be responsible for many aspects of wilderness lands, such as ensuring its preservation and assisting existing agencies already managing wilderness areas. The goal of this agency is to assure wilderness areas are being managed properly and to enforce new laws and regulations that are a result of changes made to the 1964 Wilderness Act. This agency's goal is not to micromanage existing agencies like the National Park Service or state parks, but to assist them in implementing the new changes. The definition of wilderness that was established in the Wilderness Act of 1964 continues to be timeless and accurate. It still fits the purpose and goal of preserving the wilderness areas that are important today, and for the most part manages, in the best possible way, to specify what lands could and should be considered wilderness areas that deserve protection. The importance of the lands that are established as wilderness being untrammeled and generally appearing to have been affected primarily by the forces of natural conditions, not by mankind, is crucial. Additionally, the wilderness lands being an outstanding opportunity for solitude or a primitive and unconfined type of recreation, and well as a place available for ecological, geological, and other features of scientific, education, scenic, or historical value, is just as necessary. These exemplify the key reasons that a wilderness area would be necessary. All pre-existing wilderness areas that were established by the original Wilderness Act, or any areas that have since been designated as wilderness areas, will remain wilderness. Many of the existing national parks and other areas designated wilderness have been around decades and sometimes even centuries. They are an integral part of American wilderness, national identity, and pride. Because of this, they will continue to remain wilderness areas for the public to enjoy. Wilderness is loved by a variety of people. Because of this, we believe that wilderness proposals should be able to be submitted not just by the President of the United States, but by the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of the Interior, and state governments. By allowing a variety of different levels of government and government agencies to submit wilderness proposals, it makes it easier for wilderness lovers and preservation organizations to lobby for new wilderness areas. Given that a small fraction of the United States is wilderness, we believe that by making it easy to lobby for wilderness, this will increase the amount of wilderness area in the United States, increasing recreation opportunities, ensuring that land is set aside for ecological, geological, educational, and scientific opportunities for the future. Like the 1964 Wilderness Act, areas designated wilderness will continue to be reviewed every 10 years by the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management. This is to assure that the areas designated wilderness will continue to fit the definition of a wilderness area and be of historic, ecological, educational, scientific, geological, or scenic value. If an area is reviewed and decided it no longer meets these core values, its position as a wilderness area may be revoked by the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management. This is to assure that lands not fit for wilderness designation are removed and to preserve the quality of wilderness. The process for revoking a wilderness area status or removing a section from a wilderness area would be similar to that of adding on a new area of wilderness. Both state governments and Congress would vote on the revoking of a wilderness area, and public meetings and hearings would also be held. Due to the detrimental effect motorized vehicles and aircraft have on wilderness, all motorized vehicles and aircraft will be prohibited from entering designated wilderness areas. The only exceptions to this regulation are life-threatening emergencies or scientific research purposes. Only scientists that have been authorized by the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management will be granted the opportunity to use any type of motorized vehicle or aircraft in any designated wilderness area. The judgment whether or not motorized vehicles or aircraft are necessary will also be made by the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management and its branches. The existing roads in the wilderness areas will remain intact as long as not interfering with the natural course the wilderness area will take. Existing roads will be maintained by the agency in charge of the wilderness area. They will be maintained in case of emergencies and for use in firefighting and insect control. The roads will not be deconstructed due to the reason that deconstruction would likely cause more damage to the wilderness area around it. The roads will receive minimal maintenance so that they can serve their purpose. Although pre-existing roads will not be deconstructed, no new roads will be established in any designated wilderness area for any purpose. All commercial enterprises in wilderness areas will be shut down and no new enterprises will be allowed to operate. This is to assure the quality of wilderness and preserve its core values. Lodges and other buildings subtract from wilderness experience and do not align with the definition of a wilderness area. Pre-existing lodges and buildings will continue to be maintained by the agency in charge of managing the wilderness area. Buildings will be maintained for the historical value and for emergency use at the discretion of the agency managing the wilderness area. No new buildings may be established in any wilderness area. No motorized vehicles will be permitted to enter designated wilderness areas due to the adverse effect they cause, with the exception of critical emergencies. In case of forest-threatening fires, pests and insect outbreaks, the use of aircrafts and other motorized vehicles will be allowed with permission from the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management. The urgency of the emergency will be judged by the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management and its branches in the agency. Mining, logging, grazing, foraging, and hunting will not be permitted in wilderness areas with the exception of national forests that were created for conservation-minded resource extraction, as well as recreation. Although these activities do not align with wilderness ideals, national forests were created with these explicit intents and have been considered part of the wilderness system since its creation. Therefore, national forests will continue to be part of the wilderness system while allowing the activities stated previously. State and private landowners will retain their right to access their land surrounded by wilderness. However, their means of access cannot violate core principles of the new wilderness system, such as the use of unauthorized automobiles and aircraft. This may seem unjust, but in order to preserve the wilderness ideals set forth in this act, it is necessary. Vehicles and aircraft have detrimental effects to wildlife in wilderness areas and ruin the sublime atmosphere that many seek to find in wilderness. Landowners may sell their land to the federal government or trade it for another piece of land at an equal value if they feel they can no longer adequately access their property. The Federal Agency for Wilderness Management will now accept gifts of land to be designated wilderness areas rather than the Secretary of Agriculture. The Federal Agency for Wilderness Management is solely devoted to wilderness and will have a better understanding of donated lands and wilderness than the Secretary of Agriculture. Donations of land play an important role in wilderness preservation,
and allow for individuals and organizations to show their support for the wilderness system and its principles. Instead of the Secretary of Agriculture reporting on the current status of wilderness at the opening of Congress, the head of the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management will now report to Congress. The reasoning behind this is that the head of the Federal Agency for Wilderness Management will have a better understanding of the wilderness systems in the United States. This will allow for a much more in-depth report to be given and allow for better decision making when it comes to wilderness and the organizations managing it.